Welcome to Warhammer 40k 8th edition Battle Report 46, 1500 points, Space Wolves vs. World Eaters. This is the chapter-approved Eternal War mission, Dominate and Destroy, and we will be rolling for a random map deployment today. Let's begin by taking a quick look around the board at where each of the objective markers have been placed. Beginning with this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed right here next to this ruin. In this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed up here next to this crater. In this third 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed right here next to this crater. Over on the other side of the board, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed up here next to this crater. In this middle 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed down here next to this crater. And finally, in this 2 foot by 2 foot section, the objective marker has been placed over here next to this crater. And so now we will roll for the random map deployment, and here's the roll. Rolling a 1, which is Spearhead Assault. And so on a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the Space Wolves will begin to deploy on the left side of the board, and the World Eaters will deploy on the right. And on a 4, 5, or 6, it'll be the opposite, so the Space Wolves will deploy on the right, and the World Eaters will deploy on the left. And so here's the roll, rolling a 1. So the Space Wolves will begin to deploy on the left side of the board, and the World Eaters will deploy on the right. So now on a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the Space Wolves will begin to deploy first, and on a 4, 5, or 6, the World Eaters will deploy first. Rolling a 2, so the Space Wolves will begin to deploy first. We will be back after the deployment. The deployment is now finished. The Space Wolves began to deploy first, and they also finished deploying first, which means that they will get +1 to the roll-off to determine who goes first. So let's take a quick look around the board at where each army placed all of their units. Beginning with the Space Wolves deployment and going from left to right from their own perspective, we have a squad of 5 intercessors sitting on this objective marker. Repulsor number 1, which has a Primaris Wolf Priest and a squad of 3 aggressors embarked inside. Repulsor number 2, which also has a Primaris Wolf Priest and a squad of 3 aggressors embarked inside. The Warlord, Wolfguard Battle Leader, the squad of Grey Hunters, and finally, the second squad of 5 intercessors sitting on this objective marker. Moving over to the World Eaters deployment, going from left to right as well from their own perspective, we have the first squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker, the Warlord Dean Prince of Khorne with wings, Chaos Land Raider with the squad of 3 Mutilators and Karn the Betrayer embarked inside, Khorne Lord of Skulls, the second squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker, and finally the third squad of 10 Chaos Cultists. For this battle report, the Space Wolves will have access to 8 command points, and the World Eaters will also have access to 8 command points. For a full overview of both armies, with all of the war gear that they are bringing, please check out the pregame show, which was released at the beginning of the group. The link for the pregame show will be in the description down below. And so now we will roll off to determine who will go first. The Space Wolves will be the gold and blue dice, and the World Eaters will be the white dice. And of course, the Space Wolves will have +1 to this roll. And so here's the roll-off, and the Space Wolves roll a 2, which becomes a 3 thanks to their modifier, and the World Eaters roll a 4, which means the World Eaters will win the roll-off. And so the Space Wolves will now attempt to seize the initiative on a 6, and they fail by rolling a 3. So let's go into World Eaters, turn 1. Going into World Eaters, turn 1, a reminder that the World Eaters have 8 command points available, and the Space Wolves also have 8 command points available. Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will remain still. This squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will also remain still. The third squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will move up to 6 inches, and they will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling for 6 additional inches. So the squad of 10 Chaos Cultists will move up to 12 inches. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will move up to 10 inches. As I was moving the Khorne Lord of Skulls, the statue that was right here broke, but that's okay because the statues aren't actual pieces of terrain on the board. They are simply meant to mark the facing of each board so that it's easier for me to randomly position them on the table. So the fact that that statue is no longer there doesn't actually mean anything from a gameplay perspective. The Chaos Land Raider will also move up to 10 inches. Finally, the Warlord Dean Prince of Khorne with wings will move up to 12 inches, and he will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll. rolling 1 additional inch, so the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will move up to 13 inches. Going into the shooting phase, we will begin with the Khorne Lord of Skulls, which will fire its Ichor Cannon into the squad of Grey Hunters, and it will fire its Skull Hurler into this repulsor. And the World Leaders are going to use the stratagem Demon Forge for 1 command point, bring them from 8 down to 7. Use this stratagem in your shooting or fight phase when a Chaos Space Marines demon vehicle is chosen to attack. You can reroll failed hit rolls and failed wound rolls for that model until the end of the phase. And so we will begin with the Skull Hurler against the Repulsor. D6 shots, getting 6 shots. Hitting on 3s, re-rolling, getting 3 hits and 3 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls, getting all 6 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, re-rolling fails, getting 5 wounds and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, still failing to wound. Minus 3 AP, so 5, 6 up armor saves. Passing 1, failing 3, and a cocked dice. And here's the re-roll on the cocked dice, still failing to save. So passing 1 but failing 4. And they are D3 damage piece, so 4 D3 damage. And that is a total of 7 damage. So this repulsor will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 9. And now for the Ichor Cannon against the Grey Hunters, D6 shots, getting 1 shot. Hitting on a 3, re-rolling, thanks to the stratagem, and here's the re-roll, getting 1 hit. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 3, and a re-roll thanks to the stratagem. So here's the re-roll, now getting a wound, and minus 4 AP, and this will be taken on a regular Grey Hunter. So no armor save for the Grey Hunter, so 1 regular Grey Hunter will go down, leaving 5 models left alive in the squad. The Chaos Land Raider will fire its 2 twin last cannons into the wounded repulsor, and then it will fire the bolt gun portion of its combi melta and its twin heavy bolter into the squad of Grey Hunters. Beginning with the 2 twin last cannons against the repulsor, 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, and getting 4 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds and 1 fail. Minus 3 AP, so 3 6 up armor saves, and failing all 3. And they are D6 damage apiece, and that is 9 damage, which is exactly what's needed to finish off the repulsor. So does it explode on a 6? And it does not. So the squad of 3 aggressors and the Primaris Wolf Priest will emergency disembark. And so now the repulsor will lose its last 9 wounds and be removed. And that is first blood. And then we need to roll a dice for each model that emergency disembarked, and rolls of 1 will remove models, and there are no 1s rolled. Now for the bolt gun from the Combi Melta into the Grey Hunters, 1 shot, hitting on a 3, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. And now for the twin heavy bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 4 hits, a miss, and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting a 5th hit. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 3 wounds, minus 1 AP, and these will all be taken on regular Grey Hunters, so 3 4-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So 1 more regular Grey Hunter will go down, leaving 4 left alive in the squad. Finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will fire his Warp Bolter into the squad of Grey Hunters. He can fire it even though he advanced, since it's an assault weapon. 2 shots, hitting on 3s, since he advanced, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, and these will both go on to regular Grey Hunters, so 2 4-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And so 1 more regular Grey Hunter will go down, leaving 3 left alive in the squad. Going into the assault phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls is going to declare a charge solely into the squad of 3 aggressors. He is just over 9 inches away, which means he needs a 9-inch charge to make it within an inch. However, he will have to charge through the crater, which means he will need to roll an 11 or higher in order to make it within an inch. This also means, however, that the aggressors will be unable to Overwatch because their Flamestorm gauntlets only have 8-inch range. So no Overwatch, and here's the charge range. Rolling an 8, which is not enough. However, because one of the dice is a 5, if they re-roll the 3 and it becomes a 6, they will make their charge. So the World Eaters will use 1 command point going from 7 down to 6 for a command re-roll to re-roll the 3. And here's the re-roll, still rolling a 3, so they will fail the charge. Which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve. But going into the morale phase, this squad of Grey Hunters lost 3 models this turn, and the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader has a leadership of 8, so they could fail on a 6. And here's the morale check roll. Rolling a 4, so they pass and nothing happens. At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 3 objective markers, and so they will gain 3 victory points. And so at the end of World Eaters turn 1, the score currently sits at 4 victory points for the World Eaters, thanks to First Blood, and 0 victory points for the Space Wolves. Going into Space Wolves turn 1, a reminder that the Space Wolves have 8 command points available, and the World Eaters have 6 command points available. Going into the movement phase, this squad of 5 intercessors will remain still, sitting on this objective marker. The second squad of 5 intercessors sitting on the objective marker over here will also remain still. This squad of 3 aggressors will move up to 5 inches. The Primaris Wolf Priest will move up to 6 inches. This squad of Grey Hunters will have the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader remain still, but the Grey Hunter pack leader and the regular Grey Hunter will move up to 6 inches. The squad of 3 aggressors and the Primaris Wolf Priest currently embarked within this repulsor will disembark out in front. The newly disembarked squad of 3 aggressors will now move up to 5 inches. The Primaris Wolf Priest will move up to 6 inches. The Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader will move up to 6 inches, and he will also declare an advance. And here's the advance roll, rolling 4 additional inches. So the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader will move up to 10 inches. Finally, the Repulsor will move up to 10 inches. Going into the shooting phase, the Repulsor will fire its Last Talon, Twin Last Cannon, and 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers into the Khorne Lord of Skulls, and it will fire its 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers and its 5 Fragstorm grenade launchers into this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists. And we will begin with the various weapons into the squad of Chaos Cultists, beginning with the 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, 6 shots hitting on 3s. And that is an awful roll. Getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s. Rerolling 1s thanks to the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader and getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so these will both go on to Cultists sitting in the crater, so 2 6-up armor saves. And failing both. So 2 Chaos Cultists will go down, leaving 8 left alive in the squad. Now for the 5 Fragstorm grenade launchers, D6 shots apiece, getting 19 shots. Hitting on 3s, getting 14 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 3 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Wolfguard Battle Leader. Getting 11 wounds and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to wound, so 11 wounds total. No AP, but we will begin with cultists that are in the crater, and there are 4 cultists in the crater, so beginning with 4 5-up armor saves. Passing 2 and failing 2. So 2 more cultists will go down, leaving 6 left alive in the squad. Which means there's 7 wounds left to resolve, so 2 more onto cultists in the crater, 2 5-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And so 1 more cultist will go down, leaving 5 left alive in the squad. 5 wounds left to resolve, so 1 5-up armor save, which fails. And so once again, 1 more cultist will go down, leaving 4 left alive in the squad. And finally, 4 wounds left to resolve, and no more cultists are in the crater, so 4 6-up armor saves, and failing all 4. So the final 4 cultists in this squad will go down, and that unit is wiped out. Now for the various weapons into the Khorne Lord of Skulls, starting with the 2 Crackstorm grenade launchers. 2 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 4-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it is D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. And so the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 28 starting wounds down to 26. And then the Repulsor will fire the Twin Last Cannon and the Last Talon together, because it's the same strength, AP, and damage, just different range, but both weapons are in range, so 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits and 2 misses. So the Space Wolves will use 1 command point, going from 8 down to 7, for a command reroll to reroll the 2. And here's the reroll. now getting 3 hits total. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s, thanks to the Wolf Guard Battle Leader, and getting 3 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 3, 5 up and vulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 1. And the World Eaters will use 1 command point, going from 6 down to 5, for a command reroll to reroll the 2. And here's the reroll. Still failing the invulnerable save. And it will do d6 damage, and it will do just 1 damage. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 26 wounds down to 25. This Primaris Wolf Priest will throw a crack grenade into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 1 shot, hitting on a 3, and it hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 5, rerolling 1s, and failing to wound. The second Primaris Wolf Priest will throw a crack grenade into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 1 shot, hitting on a 3, and it hits. Strength 6 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on a 5, rerolling 1s, and getting a wound. Minus 1 AP, so 1 4-up armor save, which fails. And it will do d3 damage, and it does 2 damage. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls falls from 25 wounds down to 23. This squad of 5 intercessors will shoot their Stalker bolt rifles into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 5 shots, hitting on 3s, getting all 5 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, and all fail to wound. Now this squad of 5 intercessors will fire their Stalker bolt rifles into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 5 shots, hitting on 3s, and that's a bad hit roll, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, and failing to wound. This Grey Hunter squad will fire 2 bolt guns in rapid fire range, 1 storm bolter at full range, and a cyclone missile launcher into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Bolt guns and the storm bolter can be fired together, so 6 shots total, hitting on 3s, getting 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Wolf Guard Battle Leader, and failing to wound. Now for 2 crack missiles from the Cyclone Missile Launcher, hitting on 3s, getting 1 hit. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4, rerolling 1s, getting a wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which passes. This squad of 3 aggressors will fire their Flamestorm gauntlets into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 6 d6 shots, getting 25 shots. This weapon automatically hits, so 25 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s and rerolling 1s. And there's not a single 1 in there. And that was an absolutely horrible dice roll from 25 dice. No AP, so 3 3-up armor saves, passing 2 and failing 1. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 23 wounds down to 22. And so finally, the second squad of 3 aggressors will fire their Flamestorm gauntlets into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Once again, 6 d6 shots. And that is terrible. Getting 11 shots. This weapon automatically hits, so 11 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 wounds and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll. Still failing to wound. So 2 wounds total, which is almost as good as when they had 25 shots. No AP, so 2 3-up armor saves, and passing both. Going into the assault phase, there are 4 charges to declare. Both squads of 3 aggressors and both Primaris Wolf Priests will declare a charge solely into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And so we will begin with this Primaris Wolf Priest right here. And beginning with the Overwatch from the Khorne Lord of Skulls, starting with the Ichor Cannon. D6 shots, getting 4 shots. Hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 2 hits and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, still failing to hit, so 2 hits total. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. Minus 4 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable save, which passes. Now d6 shots from the Skull Hurler, getting 2 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting a miss and a reroll. And here's the reroll, getting 1 hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, and it fails to wound. Here's the charge distance from the Primaris Wolf Priest, getting 10 inches. And so after subtracting 2 inches from going through the crater, which he is starting in, an 8-inch charge is still more than enough to make it in. So now this squad of 3 aggressors will charge in. Unfortunately for the Space Wolves, I think the Khorne Lord of Skulls is going to be able to fire Overwatch at every single unit that charges this turn because it has the special rule Titanic Demon Engine. A Khorne Lord of Skulls can shoot if there are enemy models within 1 inch of it, as long as all of the enemy models have the infantry keyword. And so I think, unfortunately, that gives it free pass to continue firing Overwatch, even though it is currently engaged. So, once again, starting with the Ichor Cannon, D6 shots, getting 5 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit but getting 1 reroll, and here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Now for D6 shots from the Skull Hurler, getting 1 shot, hitting on a 6, rerolling 1s, failing to hit. And here's the charge range from the aggressors, getting 6 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 inches from going through the crater, a 4-inch charge is still just enough to get them within an inch, because they are less than 5 inches away. Now the second squad of 3 aggressors will charge into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Beginning with the Overwatch from the Ichor Cannon, D6 shots, getting 4 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit but getting 1 reroll, and here's the reroll, still failing to hit, and now D6 shots from the Skull Hurler, getting 4 shots, hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting a hit, 2 misses and 1 reroll, and here's the reroll, still failing to hit for 1 hit total. Strength 9 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on a 3, and it wounds. And -3 AP, so 1 6-up armor save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 3 damage. So 1 regular aggressor will go down, leaving 2 models left alive in the squad. And here's the charge range, rolling a 3, which will definitely fail. So the Space Wolves are going to use 1 command point going from 7 down to 6 for a command reroll to reroll the 1. And here's the reroll, and now getting 8 total. And so after subtracting 2 inches for charging through a crater, a 6-inch charge is still more than enough to make it in. Finally, the second Primaris Wolf Priest will charge in. And for the 4th and final time, resolving Overwatch from the Khorne Lord of Skulls, beginning with the Ichor Cannon. D6 shots, getting 2 shots. Hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, getting a miss and a reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. And finally, D6 shots from the Skull Hurler, getting 5 shots. Hitting on 6s, rerolling 1s, failing to hit, getting 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. Now for the charge range, rolling 8 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 from the charge range, a 6-inch charge is still more than enough to make it into combat. Going into the fight phase, we will begin with the squad of 3 aggressors placing their attacks onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 3 attacks from the aggressor pack leader and 2 attacks apiece from the regular aggressors with their Flamestorm gauntlets. For 7 attacks total, they have to subtract 1 from hit rolls thanks to the Flamestorm gauntlets, but get to add 1 thanks to charging, thanks to being Space Wolves. So hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Primaris Wolf Priest, getting 4 hits and 3 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls, getting just 1 more hit for 5 hits total. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 4s, re-rolling 1s thanks to the Wolfguard Battle Leader, and a good thing too, all fail to wound, getting 2 re-rolls. And here's the 2 re-rolls, still rolling 1s and getting no wounds. So now the World Eaters are going to use the stratagem counter-offensive for 2 command points, bring them from 5 down to 3. This stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that charged has fought. Select one of your own eligible units and fight with it next. And of course, this will be used for the Khorne Lord of Skulls, which means that the World Eaters will also use the stratagem Demon Forge for 1 command point, bring them from 3 down to 2. Use this stratagem in your shooting or fight phase when a Chaos Space Marine Demon vehicle is chosen to attack. You can reroll failed hit and wound rolls for that model until the end of the phase. And so the Khorne Lord of Skulls, since it's still at 22 wounds, is on its highest tier of its damage chart, which means it has 4 attacks base, and it will place 3 of the 4 attacks onto the squad of 2 aggressors, and it will use the smash version of the Great Cleaver of Khorne, and it will place 1 of the 4 attacks onto the squad of 3 aggressors, and it will use the slash version of its attack. So beginning with the 3 attacks with the smash version of the Great Cleaver of Khorne against the 2 aggressor squad, hitting on 3s, re-rolling, getting 2 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 3 hits. Strength 20 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 2s, re-rolling, thanks to the stratagem, getting 2 wounds and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 3 wounds. They are minus 4 AP, so no armor save on the aggressors, and they are 6 damage apiece. So the squad of 2 aggressors, which did not attack yet, will lose its last 2 models. And that squad is wiped out. And now for the 1 attack onto the squad of 3 aggressors using the slash version of the Great Cleaver of Khorne, which means that they get to make 3 hit rolls for each attack. So once again, 3 attacks hitting on 3s, re-rolling, getting all 3 hits. Strength 10 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 2s, re-rolling, getting 2 wounds and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, getting all 3 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 3 5-up armor saves, and failing all 3. So the Space Wolves will use 1 command point going from 6 down to 5 for a command re-roll to re-roll the 4. And here's the re-roll, and they will pass the armor save, so only failing 2. And they are D3 damage apiece, but the aggressors have 2 wounds apiece. These have to be done separately. Strike number 1 will only do 1 damage, which means that strike number 2 will simply finish off the aggressor, and that will do 3. So 2 points of overkill overall, and 1 regular aggressor will go down. So now this Primaris Wolf Priest will attack the Khorne Lord of Skulls. So the Primaris Wolf Priest will have 4 attack space with the Crozius Arcanum, hitting on 2s, getting all 4 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s, and all fail to wound. Finally, this Primaris Wolf Priest will place his attacks onto the Khorne Lord of Skulls. 4 attacks base with the Crozius Arcanum, hitting on 2s, re-rolling thanks to himself, getting 3 hits and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, getting all 4 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, re-rolling 1s, failing to wound but getting 3 re-rolls. And actually, he will not get to re-roll because he is just over 6 inches away from the Wolfguard battle leader now, so all failed to wound. And going into the morale phase, this squad of aggressors lost 1 model this turn. However, the aggressor pack leader has leadership of 8, so it is impossible for them to fail. At the end of the player turn, the Space Wolves are currently controlling 3 objective markers, and so they will gain 3 victory points. And so at the end of Space Wolves turn 1, the score currently sits at 3 victory points for the Space Wolves and 4 victory points for the World Eaters. Going into World Eaters turn 2, a reminder that the World Eaters have 2 command points available, and the Space Wolves have 5 command points available. Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will remain still. This second squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will also remain still. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will remain locked in combat with the squad of 2 aggressors and both of the Primaris Wolf Priests. The Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will move up to 12 inches. Karn the Betrayer will disembark from the Chaos Land Raider. Karn the Betrayer will now move up to 6 inches. The Chaos Land Raider will move up to 10 inches. Going into the shooting phase, the Chaos Land Raider will fire both profiles from its Combi Melta and the Twin Heavy Bolter into the squad of Grey Hunters, and it will fire its 2 Twin Last Cannons into this repulsor, beginning with the Vulcan portion from the Combi Melta. 2 shots in rapid fire range, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound. No AP, and this will go on to a Grey Hunter in the crater, so 1 2-up armor save, which passes. Now the Melta gun from the Combi Melta will fire 1 shot, hitting on a 4, re-rolling 1s, and failing to hit. 6 shots from the Twin Heavy Bolter, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 5 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, and these will both go on to Grey Hunters sitting in the crater, so 2 3-up armor saves, and failing both. So the final regular Grey Hunter will go down, and the Grey Hunter pack leader will also go down, leaving just 1 model left alive in the squad. 2 Twin Last Cannons into the repulsor, 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, re-rolling 1s, getting 3 hits and 1 miss. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds and 1 fail, but the World Eaters will use 1 command point going from 2 down to 1 for a command reroll to reroll the 2. And here's the reroll, still failing to wound. So 2 wounds total. Minus 3 AP, so 2 6-up armor saves, and failing both. And they are D6 damage apiece. for 7 damage total. So the repulsor will fall from 16 starting wounds down to 9. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will fire both the Ichor Cannon and the Skull Hurler into this wounded repulsor, and the World Eaters will use the stratagem Demon Forge for 1 command point, bring them from 1 down to 0. Use this stratagem in your shooting or fight phase when a Chaos Space Marine Demon vehicle is chosen to attack. You can reroll failed hit and wound rolls for that model until the end of the phase. And we will begin with the Skull Hurler. D6 shots, getting 1 shot. Hitting on 3 rerolling fails, and getting a hit. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, rerolling, getting a wound. Minus 3 AP, so 1 6-up armor save, which fails. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. So the repulsor will fall from 9 wounds down to 7. And now for the Ichor Cannon, D6 shots, getting 2 shots. Hitting on 3s, rerolling, getting 2 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 5s, rerolling both. And here's the 2 rerolls. Getting 2 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so no armor save on the repulsor. And they are D3 damage apiece. And that is 5 damage. And so the repulsor will fall from 7 wounds down to 2. Khorne the Betrayer will not be able to fire his plasma pistol this turn, because the only viable targets within range are locked in combat with the Khorne Lord of Skulls. The Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader is also in range, but because he is not the closest enemy unit, he cannot be targeted. So the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings will fire his Wart Bolter into the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader from the Grey Hunter squad. 2 shots, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 1 AP, so 2 3-up invulnerable saves, passing both. And so now the Space Wolves will use the stratagem Lone Wolf for 1 command point, bring them from 5 down to 4. Use this stratagem at the end of any phase if there is a Space Wolves infantry unit from your army other than a character, a servitor, or a wolfen that has been reduced to a single model. That model's wounds characteristic is increased by 2, and it gains 2 wounds. It gains the character keyword, and you can reroll failed hit and wound rolls for it for the remainder of the game. And so this stratagem will be activated on the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader, who will go up from 2 starting wounds to now having 4. And we will put a wound counter next to him just to remind us of that. Going into the assault phase, there are 2 charges to declare. First will be Khorne the Betrayer, declaring a charge onto the Primaris Wolf Priest and the squad of 2 aggressors in front of him. The second charge will be from the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings, declaring a charge into the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader. And we will begin with the Demon Prince. And the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader will throw a crack grenade in Overwatch, hitting on a 6 and fails to hit. And here's the charge range, getting 9 inches. And so even after subtracting 2 inches from charging through a crater, a 7-inch charge is still more than enough to make it in. And now for Khorne the Betrayer's charge, there is no Overwatch since both targets are already locked in combat. And the primary target will be the Primaris Wolf Priest since it is closer. And here's the charge range, getting 7 inches. And 7 inches is more than enough to make it in. Going into the fight phase, the Space Wolves will begin by using the stratagem Seeking a Saga for 1 command point, bring them from 4 down to 3. Use this stratagem at the beginning of the fight phase, choose a Space Wolves character from your army that is within 1 inch of an enemy unit with a greater power rating than that character. You can reroll failed wound rolls for attacks made by that character against the enemy unit. And this will be used on the Primaris Wolf Priest, because both Khorne the Betrayer and the Khorne Lord of Skulls have a higher power rating than the Primaris Wolf Priest does. And so now going into the actual fighting part of the fight phase, we will begin with Khorne the Betrayer placing his attacks. So Khorne the Betrayer will have 7 attacks base on the charge. He will place 4 of the 7 attacks onto the squad of 2 aggressors, and he will place 3 of the 7 attacks onto the Primaris Wolf Priest. So beginning with the 4 attacks onto the squad of aggressors using Gorechild, hitting on 2s. And 6s generate additional attacks, so getting 4 hits and 1 additional attack. And here's the additional attack, getting a 5th hit. Strength 6 versus Toughness 5 means wounding on 3s. Getting 3 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so no armor save on the aggressors. And they are D3 damage apiece, so these will have to be done separately. Strike number 1. will do 3 damage, which will wipe out an aggressor, which means that since there's only one aggressor left, strikes 2 and 3 will automatically kill it off, and they would have done 4 damage total. So the regular aggressor will take 3 damage and be killed off, and the aggressor pack leader will take 4 damage and be killed off. And that squad is wiped out. Now for the 3 attacks on the Primaris Wolf Priest, hitting on 2s. And luckily for the World Eaters, Karn the Betrayer is not within an inch of any friendly units, so those 1s are simply discarded. So 1 hit, strength 5 versus toughness 4 means wounding on a 3, and it fails to wound. Now the Space Wolves will use the stratagem counteroffensive for 2 command points, bring them from 3 down to 1. This stratagem is used right after an enemy unit that charges a spot. Select one of your own eligible units and fight with the next. And the Space Wolves will select this Primaris Wolf Priest to attack Karn the Betrayer. 4 attacks base with the Crozius Arcanum, hitting on 2s, re-rolling thanks to himself and getting all 4 hits. Strength 5 thanks to the Crozius Arcanum versus toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, and re-rolling thanks to the Seeking a Saga stratagem, getting 3 wounds and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll. Still failing to wound. Minus 1 AP, so 3 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 2 and failing 1, and it is 2 damage. So Karn the Betrayer will fall from 5 starting wounds down to 3. And so now going back to the World Eaters charging units, Karn the Betrayer will fight for a second time. Thanks to his special ability, Blood for the Blood God, Karn the Betrayer can fight twice in each fight phase instead of only once. And that is very unfortunate for the Primaris Wolf Priest, because now all 7 attacks thanks to charging with Gorechild will go on to the Primaris Wolf Priest, hitting on 2s. And once again, he's not within an inch of any friendly units, so the 1 is discarded. However, no additional attacks are generated, getting 6 hits. Strength 6 versus toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting 5 wounds. Minus 4 AP, so 5 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 4 and failing 1. And it is D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. So the Primaris Wolf Priest will fall from 5 starting wounds down to 3. Thanks to the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader's relic, the Armor of Russ, the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings will be forced to fight last in this fight phase. So even though he charged, he will have to wait till everyone else has fought. Which means going over to units that did not charge this turn, beginning with the World Eater's side, since it is their turn, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will get to attack next. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls still has 4 attacks base, and he will split them evenly for 2 attacks onto both Primaris Wolf Priests. And all of the attacks will use the slash profile. So beginning with the attacks against the wounded Primaris Wolf Priest, the 2 attacks become 6 thanks to the slash profile, hitting on 3s, getting 6 hits. And sadly, the Khorne Lord of Skulls does not have the Death to the False Emperor special rule. Strength 10 versus toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, getting 5 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 5 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 2 but failing 3. And they are D3 damage apiece, and that's a total of 6 damage. So the wounded Primaris Wolf Priest will lose its last 3 wounds and be killed off. And now for the attacks onto the fully healthy Primaris Wolf Priest. 2 base attacks using the slash profile become 6 attacks, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits. Strength 10 versus toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, getting 4 wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 4-up invulnerable saves, passing 1 but failing 3. And they are D3 damage apiece, and that is 7 damage. So this Primaris Wolf Priest will be killed off and removed. And now the Khorne Lord of Skulls will consolidate up to 3 inches. The Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader will now place his attacks onto the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings. 4 attacks with his chainsword, hitting on 2s, getting 3 hits. Strength 4 versus toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, rerolling 1s, getting a wound, a fail, and a reroll. And here's the reroll. Getting 2 wounds. No AP, so 2 3-up armor saves, passing both. So now the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings will place his attacks onto the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader. 9 attacks on the charge with his 2 sets of Malefic Talons, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, 6s generate additional attacks, getting all 9 hits and 3 additional attacks. And here's the additional attacks, getting 1 more hit and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, getting all 12 hits. Strength 7 versus toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, rerolling 1s thanks to his Warlord trait. getting 7 wounds and 3 rerolls. And here's the rerolls. Getting 2 more wounds for 9 wounds total. Minus 2 AP, so 9 4-up invulnerable saves. And that is a cocked dice. Passing 4, but failing 5, and they are 2 damage apiece. And the Warlord Wolfguard Battle Leader only has 5 starting wounds, thanks to his Warlord trait, Saga of the Bear, and so he is killed off and removed. And that is Slay the Warlord. So now the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings will consolidate up to 3 inches. Going into the morale phase, the Grey Hunters lost 2 models this turn. However, the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader has a leadership of 8, and therefore it is impossible for them to fail. At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 2 objective markers, since they will gain 2 victory points. And so, at the end of World Eaters turn 2, the score currently sits at 7 victory points for the World Eaters, thanks to Slay the Warlord, and 3 victory points for the Space Wolves. Going into Space Wolves turn 2, a reminder that the Space Wolves have 1 command point available and the World Eaters have 0 command points available. Going into the movement phase, this squad of 5 intercessors will remain still. This second squad of 5 intercessors will also remain still. The Repulsor, which is now down to 2 wounds, will move up to 3 inches. And finally, the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader, who is now character, will move up to 5 inches. Going into the shooting phase, this squad of 5 intercessors will fire their Stalker bolt rifles into the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings, because it is the closest visible enemy unit. 5 shots hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which passes. The Repulsor that is down to 2 wounds will fire everything that it has into the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings. Beginning with the last Talon and Twin Last Cannon together, 4 shots total, hitting on 5s, getting 2 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 3s, getting 1 wound. Minus 3 AP, so 1 5-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it will do D6 damage, and it will do 3 damage, but the Space Wolves are going to go for broke, and they will use 1 command point, going from 1 down to 0, for a command reroll to reroll that damage result. And here's the reroll, and now they get 6 damage. So the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings will fall from 8 starting wounds down to 2. 2 shots from the Crackstorm grenade launchers, hitting on 5s, failing to hit. 6 shots from the 2 Iron Hail Heavy Stubbers, hitting on 5s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, failing to wound. Finally, the 5 Fragstorm grenade launchers. 5 D6 shots, getting 17 shots, hitting on 5s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on 5s, getting 1 wound. No AP, so 1 3-up armor save, which fails. So the Warlord Demon Princecorn with Wings will fall from 2 wounds down to 1. The Wolfguard Terminator pack leader is unfortunately closer to Karn the Betrayer than he is to the Warlord Demon Princecorn, so he will fire his Stormbolter in rapid fire range and his Cyclone missile launcher into Karn the Betrayer. 4 shots from the Stormbolter, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to the Lone Wolf stratagem, getting 3 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, getting all 4 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, re-rolling, getting 2 wounds and 2 rerolls. And here's the 2 rerolls, getting 3 wounds total. No AP, so 3 3-up armor saves, passing all 3. Finally, 2 crack missiles from the Cyclone missile launcher, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s and 2s, thanks to moving, getting 1 hit and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit. So 1 hit total. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, re-rolling, getting a wound. Minus 2 AP, so 1 4-up invulnerable save, which passes. Finally, this squad of 5 intercessors will fire their Stalker bolt rifles into the Khorne Lord of Skulls, because unfortunately for them, the Chaos Land Raider is closer to them than both Karn the Betrayer and the Warlord Demon Princecorn. And so they might as well go after the target with the worst armor save, and which is already wounded. So they will fire into the Khorne Lord of Skulls. And also quickly, I did forget this at the beginning of the World Eater's turn, so we will do this now. At the beginning of each of the World Eater's turns, the Khorne Lord of Skulls regenerates 1 wound. So, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will go back up from 22 wounds to 23. I do apologize about forgetting to do that when I was supposed to. 5 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 6s, and failing to wound. Going into the assault phase, there are no charges to declare, which means going into the fight phase, there are no fights to resolve, and going into the morale phase, there are no morale checks to take. At the end of the player turn, the Space Wolves are currently controlling 3 objective markers, and so they will score 3 victory points. And so, at the end of Space Wolves turn 2, the score currently sits at 6 victory points for the Space Wolves and 7 victory points for the World Eaters. Going into World Eaters turn 3, a reminder that the World Eaters have 0 command points available, and the Space Wolves also have 0 command points available. Going into the movement phase, this squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will remain still. This squad of 10 Chaos Cultists sitting on this objective marker will also remain still. And before we go any further, and before I forget again, the Khorne Lord of Skulls regenerates 1 wound at the beginning of the turn, so it will go back up from 23 wounds to 24. The Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings, who is now down to 1 wound, will move up to 12 inches. The Khorne Lord of Skulls will move up to 10 inches. Karn the Betrayer will move up to 6 inches. The squad of 3 Mutilators will disembark from the Chaos Land Raider. The Mutilators will now move up to 4 inches. The Chaos Land Raider will move up to 10 inches. Going into the shooting phase, the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fire everything that it has into this squad of 5 intercessors. Beginning with the Ichor Cannon, D6 shots, getting 5 shots. Hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, thanks to the Demon Prince, getting 2 hits and 3 rerolls. And here's the rerolls, getting all 5 hits. Strength 7 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting all 5 wounds. And they are minus 4 AP, so no armor save on the intercessors. However, the intercessors do have 2 wounds apiece, and these are D3 damage, so they will have to be done one at a time. Strike number 1 will kill an intercessor. Strike number 2 will kill an intercessor. Strike number 3 will not kill an intercessor, which means strike number 4 will simply finish him off, and strike number 5 will also not kill an intercessor. So 3 intercessors will go down, and the final regular intercessor will fall from 2 starting wounds down to 1. Now the Skull Hurler will fire D6 shots, getting 6 shots. Hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, getting 5 hits and 1 reroll. And here's the reroll, still failing to hit, so 5 hits total. Strength 9 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, and that's a really bad roll. Getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 2 6-up armor saves, passing 1 and failing 1. And it will do D3 damage, and it will do 2 damage. Not that that actually matters, because it will simply finish off the final remaining wound on the regular intercessor, leaving only the intercessor pack leader alive in the squad. The Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with Wings will fire his Warp Bolter into the lone intercessor pack leader. 2 shots, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, getting 2 hits. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, getting 1 wound. Minus 1 AP, so 1 4-up armor save, which fails, and unfortunately for the Space Wolves, it is 2 damage. So the lone intercessor pack leader is removed, and that unit is wiped out. Karn the Betrayer will fire his special plasma pistol into the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader. 1 shot, hitting on a 2, and rolling a 1, but re-rolling thanks to himself. And here's the reroll, and it hits with a 4. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on a 2, and it wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 1 3-up invulnerable save, which fails. And it is 2 damage, so the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader will fall from 4 wounds down to 2. The Chaos Land Raider will fire the Twin Heavy Bolter and the Meltagun portion of its Combi Melta into the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader, and it will also fire its 2 Twin Last Cannons into the Repulsor, which is down to 2 wounds. And we will begin with the Meltagun portion of the Combi Melta into the Wolfguard Terminator pack leader. 1 shot, hitting on a 3, and it fails to hit. Now for the Twin Heavy Bolter, 6 shots, hitting on 3s, getting 5 hits. Strength 5 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 3s, getting all 5 wounds. Minus 1 AP, but he is in a crater, so 5 2-up armor saves, passing all 5. Finally, the 2 Twin Last Cannons into the Repulsor, 4 shots total, hitting on 3s, getting 2 hits. Strength 9 versus Toughness 8 means wounding on 3s, getting 2 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 2 6-up armor saves, and failing both.
And not that it matters, but they do d6 damage apiece for a total of only 4 damage. Does the repulsor explode on a 6? And it will. And unfortunately for the Space Wolves, the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings is not within 6 inches of the repulsor, so the explosion will not kill off the World Eater's Warlord, but it will do d6 mortal wounds to the Khorne Lord of Skulls, and it will do 5. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fall from 24 wounds down to 19, and it will also do d6 mortal wounds to the Intercessors, and it will do 6. So 3 regular Intercessors will be killed off, leaving 2 left alive in the squad, and then the repulsor will lose its last 2 wounds and be killed off. Going into the assault phase, there are 4 charges to declare. First will be the squad of 3 Mutilators declaring a charge into the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader. Second will be Karn the Betrayer declaring a charge into the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader. Third will be the Khorne Lord of Skulls declaring a charge into the squad of 2 Intercessors. And fourth will be the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings declaring a charge into the squad of 2 Intercessors. And we will begin with the Mutilators. Beginning with Overwatch from the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader, starting with the Cyclone Missile Launcher, 2 crack missiles, hitting on 6s, re-rolling, getting 2 re-rolls, and here's the re-rolls. Still failing to hit. Finally, the Storm Bolter, 4 shots in rapid fire range, hitting on 6s, re-rolling, getting 1 hit and 3 re-rolls. And here's the re-rolls, getting 2 hits total. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 4s, re-rolling, getting 1 wound and 1 re-roll. And here's the re-roll, getting 2 wounds total. No AP, so 2 2-up armor saves, and passing both. And here's their charge range, getting 7 inches. So even after subtracting 2 for charging through the crater, a 5-inch charge is more than enough to make it in. And now to resolve the charge from Karn the Betrayer. And here's his charge range, getting 6 inches. And of course, after subtracting 2 for charging through a crater, a 4-inch charge is more than enough to make it in. Now we will resolve the charge from the Khorne Lord of Skulls into the Intercessors to soak up the Overwatch. And the Khorne Lord of Skulls is within 6 inches, so 1 Intercessor will throw a crack grenade, hitting on a 6, and it fails to hit. The other will fire his Stalker Bolt Rifle, hitting on a 6, and that fails to hit as well. And here's the charge range, rolling 4 inches, which will fail, because he is just within 6 inches, which means he needs a 5-inch charge, going through a crater, so he needed to roll a 7. So the Khorne Lord of Skulls will fail his charge. So finally, the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings will declare his charge into the squad of Intercessors. And we will do the same Overwatch. 1 will throw a crack grenade hitting on a 6, which fails to hit, and the other will fire a Stalker Bolt Rifle hitting on a 6, which will hit. Strength 4 versus Toughness 6 means wounding on a 5, and it wounds. Minus 2 AP, so 1 5-up invuln, which fails. And so that will kill off the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings, and that is Slay the Warlord. And so no one will make it into combat with those Intercessors. Going into the fight phase, we will begin with a squad of 3 Mutilators placing their attacks onto the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader. And so the Mutilators will attack with their flesh metal weapons, which means we first need to roll for the modifiers for their attacks. So beginning with Strength plus D3, plus 3 Strength, minus D3 for the AP, minus 3 AP, and each attack will do D3 damage, and they will do 3 damage. 4 attacks apiece on the charge for 12 attacks total, hitting on 3s, re-rolling thanks to being within an inch of Karn the Betrayer, so getting 8 hits and 4 re-rolls. And they also have Death to the False Emperor, so hit rolls of 6 will generate additional attacks. And here's the re-rolls, getting 11 hits total, but they do generate 1 additional attack, hitting on a 3 re-rolling, and it hits, so 12 hits total. Strength 8 versus Toughness 4 means wounding on 2s, getting 9 wounds. Minus 3 AP, so 9 3-up invulnerable saves. Passing 6, but failing 3, and they are 3 damage apiece. So the Wolfguard Terminator Pack Leader will lose his last 2 wounds and be killed off. And the Grey Hunter squad is now fully wiped out. Going into the morale phase, this squad of 2 Intercessors lost 3 models this turn, and the Intercessor Pack Leader has a leadership of 8, so they could fail on a 6. And here's the morale check roll. They roll a 5, so they pass and nothing happens.
At the end of the player turn, the World Eaters are currently controlling 3 objective markers, and so they will gain 3 victory points. And so at the end of World Eaters turn 3, the score currently sits at 10 victory points for the World Eaters, and 7 victory points thanks to Slay the Warlord for the Space Wolves. Going into Space Wolves turn 3, a reminder that the Space Wolves had 0 command points available, and the World Eaters also had 0 command points available.
And so I know that in the pregame show, I talked about how I would play each game out through the end of Battle Round 3. However, and I have mentioned this in previous games, I am not interested in giving pity points to the losing side. And so if I played out this turn, I would then be obligated to play World Eaters turn 4 in order to give the World Eaters the chance to table the Space Wolves, which would also grant the World Eaters extra victory points thanks to holding a bunch of objective markers for an extra turn. And so at this point, we are going to concede the game because there is absolutely no point in playing out this game with only 2 intercessors left on the table for the Space Wolves. So the World Eaters will achieve Line Breaker thanks to the Khorne Lord of Skulls, which will grant them an extra victory point. And also at the end of all of this, we need to add in the kill points. Thanks to killing off the Warlord Demon Prince Khorne with wings in Overwatch, the Space Wolves will achieve 2 kill points, since they also killed off a Chaos Cultist squad near the beginning of the game. So that will bring them up to a final score of 9 victory points after everything is all said and done. And the World Eaters fully destroyed 9 Space Wolf units. If they had killed this last Intercessor squad, it would have been all 10. And so the World Eaters will end up with a final score of 20 victory points. And so we will have a major victory for the World Eaters through concession from the Space Wolves at the beginning of Space Wolves turn 3. And so now that the game is over, I can go over 1 or 2 of my final thoughts on this particular game, beginning with the main reason for the concession, which should be blatantly obvious, even though we're a little early, but the Space Wolves got absolutely rocked. Apparently, this Space Wolves army was no match for the World Eaters in any way, shape, or form. And the fact that those 2 intercessors managed to kill off the Warlord Demon Prince of Khorne with wings in Overwatch is massively impressive. And if they hadn't done that, I'm pretty sure that the Space Wolves would have been tabled. But the Space Wolves really had no answer for the Khorne Lord of Skulls, and the fact that they managed to drop it to 19 wounds by the end of the game, and really only because their own repulsor blew up and did 5 mortal wounds to it, otherwise it would still be at 24, really shows just how tough that Khorne Lord of Skulls is. And I will say that in this game, the Khorne Lord of Skulls did very well, both with its shooting and its close combat attacks. But I think the biggest issue that the Space Wolves had was that they did not go first. And while going first would not have solved every single problem that the Space Wolves faced in this particular game, it would have solved some. First and foremost, if the Space Wolves had gone first, they could have moved both repulsors into range and potentially been able to shoot at and blow up the Chaos Land Raider in their first turn. And just like how losing a repulsor right away caused massive problems for the Space Wolves, I think losing the Chaos Land Raider right away would have caused big problems for the World Eaters. I think both of these armies suffer from the issue of whoever loses a big unit first will most likely lose the game. Because if the World Eaters were to lose either the Chaos Land Raider or the Khorne Lord of Skulls turn 1, their effectiveness drops by a lot. And with the Space Wolves, if they lose one of their repulsors turn 1, all of a sudden there goes about 45% of their shooting anti-tank firepower. And so there's really not much else for me to talk about. It was a pretty good showing from the World Eaters. It was a very disappointing showing from the Space Wolves. And that's pretty much the story. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.